What's up, everybody? Really quick little video intro here. I did start streaming over on Twitch, so I'm gonna just like drop a link to that in the description if anybody's interested in checking that out. Thanks so much to everybody that came through and kind of chatted, participated, asked questions, made the streams a lot of fun yesterday. I will announce whenever I go live in the future. And thanks so much to everybody too for just the support on these YouTube videos. But I figured like really quick I would put this together because there was a good portion of the stream last night where I went over painting like the magma or glowing weapon effect that a lot of people have been interested in. So I'm just gonna download the VOD, put it up as a video because it's pretty much how a tutorial would be anyways for me. I know the audio is a little crappy. I tried to put a sound gate on my microphone because I was watching hockey in the background. I didn't want everyone to have to listen to that, but it did kind of chop the audio up a little bit. But it's still good info, and I think it's useful. So thanks. And you know what? I'm going to pause the shoulder pad there for now because I want to work on this axe because I think there's some like cool stuff that I can show you guys. Like how to do these like little Ember Effects that I think have turned out pretty cool. Focus a little bit. So bear with me like 30 seconds. I'm going to go grab the colors that I need to do this effect. And I'll do some explanation and stuff too. So be right back. Just got to grab those colors that I need to do that. Okay. All right, so the colors that I needed, and I'm just gonna talk about this for a second here, in case anybody's interested. So with a lot of like red OSL effects, you know, the primary colors that you need for it are, as you'd expect, your warm colors. So you got yellow, orange. I usually use some type of fluorescent, whether it be a red fluorescent or an orange fluorescent, and yellow and white. So you want to pick an origin point for your heat source. In this instance, got kind of like the edge of the axe out onto the blade of it here, and that's where you want to like have your white be. You can see I've kind of like started a map towards that point. But obviously, like, you want almost white to be at your brightest spot. You can see I've like worked some of my orange there. There's a lot of red, and most of this is just like stippling. So I'm gonna go through and do this just so you can see the process for it. But you're basically just working towards your brightest point, mixing in from red over to orange, over to yellow, down to white. And you can glaze a lot of it with your fluoro orange to kind of get that like glow effect, because those fluorescents really help sell that kind of glow. And for the most part, they're inks that I use, so they're super easy to glaze in. So let me get back to mapping this stuff out. I'm gonna get this fluoro orange. This is kind of like my mid-tone color. And I mean, you can see like right off the bat how bright that is. This is golden high flow. I don't know if anybody's ever tried using that stuff, but I've had a pretty good experience with it. I do not want to use my winds. This I will. One of my old beater brushes though. So right now, I'm going to kind of focus this into a large area, and I'm just stippling. So I'm just basically going in, making little dots, And this kind of like molten effect, it's nice because it lets you be a little bit messy. You don't have to keep it super, super clean. So I'm going to go in, this is my mid-tone. So I'm going to take basically like a big chunk of the back half of this axe. Kind of map it out. So we can easily dial it back in. Or do whatever we need to adjust it. Again, mid-tone color is here. And I'm going to cover a wide portion of the axe. You can see it starts to kind of get that more like glowy look to it, like we see on the other side. I'm Gray. Thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. So now what I'm going to do is I have that kind of like larger mapped area scored out. Again, keep in mind, like, I'm going to put a little bit of a darker edge highlight, which is kind of counterintuitive, right? For what a lot of you guys are probably used to. You almost always want to put like edge highlights want to be your brightest. But we want to create that kind of like molten look. Where on that leading edge of the axe, it's not quite as hot. So to do that, we actually kind of use like a darker color, which will be a red. But you can see that in a second. We'll get back to it. So right now, I'm going to mix in a yellow because I'm going to be moving towards my heat source. We need a nice, vibrant yellow to do that. Mix that up. Let's get too much here. A nice, vibrant yellow. And I'm going to mix these two together. You don't want to go straight to the next color. I'm going to blend them with this Fluro. You'll get this very, very vibrant orange. Wanted to stop by between 2 sleep periods. Hey, appreciate it. This is kind of a weird time that I picked to stream. But I appreciate you stopping by. Alright, so we're just going back in, stippling a bunch of little tiny dots. Like I said, the nice thing about this effect is you don't have to be super neat with it. Lends itself well being a little bit messy. Looks a little bit more dynamic when you've got kind of a mix of colors coming in. We're just putting a bunch of little tiny dots, and I'm going to kind of mix this yellow towards the center of this axe blade. Because again, picking out those 2 points, you can see that we're almost white on this side of it. I'm going to do the same thing and map it out on the back. Once we've kind of got a centralized color here, I'm going to move up to just pure yellow and white. Not quite there though. Hope with the streams you'll finally receive an answer from GD. I'm not holding my breath, man. I don't know what I did to end up on their shit list, but it does not seem like they want to extend the olive branch, which is okay, right? Life goes on. I'm still here spending all my money on their stuff. I'm going back to my orange color, my Fluro. I just want to push this out. You can kind of see now that glow is starting to come in. Once we hit it with the yellow, it'll get even brighter, and then we'll move it into a little bit of white. And then what I'm going to do is on this outside edge where the orange is kind of a little bit of a harsh transition, go back in and I'm going to do a red. You can kind of see that red there to break it up. Then I'll mix in a little bit of black to that red, and then we'll do some of those embers so you guys can kind of see what those like tiny little glowy bits, how those work. So I'm going to get some water. I'm going to make a really light glaze. And if you ever want to test like what the application is going to look like, you can always use the back of your thumb and your fingernail. And that's how I want it. I want it to be just very, very light. Almost like no paint at all. I'm just glazing that glow to kind of, again, homogenize some of these layers. And then just because it's bothering me, get a little bit of red out. I'm going to hit that outside edge. So I'm using corn red. Put in a little bit that Fluro orange in there. And then I'm going to hit, you can see right where that line is, right through here. It's a little too blending well. So we're going to come in with the red. Again, the thought process here is as that light dissipates from the heat source, it's going to cool. So towards the outside edges, that's where we're going to move to a darker. You can see that seam is already starting to go away. Blend becomes a little bit more natural. Looks like that heat using. What I'm going to do is mix in a little bit of black to that mixture. Basically want completely black out towards of the axe. Grab black, make sure it's thin. Kind of make a little dots just to add in tonal variety. I'm already following you on Instagram. Awesome. I appreciate it. Trying to branch out a little bit, do a little bit more content just then outside of Instagram. Be like, maybe like watching some of this painting stuff might be helpful. But thank you so much for following me on Instagram and then coming over here too to the stream. We really do appreciate it. All you guys that follow me, very awesome, and I very much appreciate all of you. Cool. So now I'm gonna mix in even more yellow. We're working with almost pure yellow at this point. Again, getting closer to the center of our heat source. Again, thin layer, lots of tiny little dots, and I'm moving into an even smaller area at this point. Again, picking out that yellow. Bring into my small area at the tip of this axe edge here. Yeah. Then thing working into a finer and smaller area here. Tiny little dots. And the consistency for this, like you can see if I run it across my nail here, it is very, very thin. So it should be like a glaze. You don't want to have too much paint when you're doing this, or you'll get some texture. And when I say texture, I just mean like you'll have little like bits and bobs of paint that'll actually show up on the surface of the mini, and it can kind of just like ruin the effect because you don't want it to look like you got a bunch of specks of stuff. And pure yellow. Working in a very fine small area. Then I might go in and just put a few dots outside of the space. Is that heat? Don't necessarily want to make it look super. It'll be perfect for salamanders. Yes, this is a very cool effect to use salamanders. It also looks really good if you have like a power sword that has any type of like lettering inside of it. This is like a really cool effect to use for that because you can kind of just make like a white glaze and just put it right into the lettering, and then you do this same type of like work. You're working towards the center of that lettering, and it makes it look like the letters are glowing. Pretty cool, like OSL effect. All right, so now I'm not going to use white because white is a little bit too. What happens if you mix white and it gets like a little bit too desaturated? So I'm going to use ice yellow from Vallejo as our final paint. The scene but is quite beat up. Ice yellow. This is going to be like the final air. Really making it look hot. Kind of start to sell that glow by having like the white heat at the center. The origin point of your light source is almost always going to be near white for something like this, like fire, flames, anything that you really want to like signify hot metal. Whatever the origin point of your light is. Basically white. Yeah, I'm just doing tiny little dots at basically a glaze consistency. Fire effect. Again, ice yellow. Double check that on my nail. You can barely see it. That's how you want it. That to basically be a glaze. So it takes a few passes for it to actually get the color accrued enough to see it. But by doing it with this glaze, not building thick rolled soft glaze. So this can kind of take a while to do. A little bit of a pain in that regard. But the overall effect. Again, I'm working in a smaller area this time. So I'm doing it out of frame. really focusing. Now, like I mentioned, that I want. Got this center line here, kind of like the leading edge of that axe. Normally, the inclination for edge highlighting is you're gonna go to a brighter color, right? You'd almost like want to do a white if you're highlighting bright. It's kind of the opposite for this effect. So we're gonna use red, kind of run along that edge. I apply a little bit of difference in temperature. So I'm gonna use piston this. Just gonna use natural edge. Nice red line. And then I want a little bit of tonal variation. I'm going to go over to this corn red that I have. Kind of put in a few dots around it. Love my piston red. Yeah, I mean, I love the like Citadel red colors. Evil Sun Scarlet is like one of my favorite reds to use. Dots here. I like with AK red. I haven't tried AK red. I am a huge fan of AK, and I've been trying to use more of their paints. I just haven't bought them yet. I am a big fan again through AK stuff. Just hot around. Tried AK blue. No, so the primary AK colors that I have that I use, they're black, right? Use it for everything that I need to paint black. And then I use their like, they have a few like ochre colors and then some yellows that I use for my non-metallic. I'm doing like non-metallic metal. I'll use. I haven't tried any of their like normal color ranges, but I've been meaning to because I hear like a lot of good things about them. All right, so I'm gonna do a few of these embers now. When I say that, I mean those cool little like glowy spots on the outside edge. This effect. And it's following the same thought process that we've already done. Start with red. Want to make sure that it's kind of like a glaze. Pick out a spot. Where's this outside edge? Gonna make. Probably isn't gonna stand out. Add in the secondary. I'm gonna just take a little bit of black. Work it in here. I want to make sure. Then, taking the Fluro orange. Stuff is very thin. Side of that red. Pine. Fluro paint really makes it stand out, kind of that. Right. Working inside that red. Then hello. Get it inside of that M. 8418. Stopping by. Following. Appreciate it. Is just over the. Then you can see nice little glowing effect. I might put a little dot, ice yellow in the center, kind of fill it. Wait, all we're doing is like the same basic principle, going from darker red, orange, and then yellow, and then white center. So it's almost the same thing that we did all the way up to this point of the axe, but doing it in a very, very spot. Because I'm here. Actually, use this a little black. Outside edge of this black, and then I'm actually going to go in with a K, kind of make it look like from the metal forming like it area. I don't think it's oxidation. I don't know like what the scientific term. Just to enhance that effect. I'm gonna do a couple more embers, just to kind of give some nice little visual element. We'll do a little OSL on this. Same thing. Red. Circle. Kind of hard to see. Pretty thin. What brushes do you use? Right now, I am using a Winsor Newton Series 7 00. Most of the finer detail work that I'm going to be doing in these videos or in these streams are done with the same. They're kind of pricey though, so they do suck a little bit in that regard. Want a cheaper version, but still a very nice. Rosemary & Co. Series 33 are close second. They're a bit cheaper. These brushes tend to be like $15 to $20 a pop, and it can be a little bit pricey. Buy a bunch of them. Darth Rosie, thanks for following. Hope Saturday is treating you well. But these ones can be a little bit spendy, so I try to keep them in good shape. It will break the bank very quickly if you're buying like a bunch of them at a time. Alright, so we made our red circle. Going back into the center of it with our fluoro orange. And it's the same principle as what we did to do this whole axe effect, right? Just building up towards the brighter point of your source. Now I just grab a little bit of yellow in the center of that circle. Throw my yellow down. A little bit more. Right in the middle. You can see it kind of makes that like cool, almost like a little ember being formed. I just did this by accident. Okay. Kind of like that. Just a way to add another visual element. Kind of like molten weapon effect. So, I'm going to make a gray here. Take some white. Mix in some black. Then I'm just going to pick out some spots along the edge here. Ever seen like molten metal? Outside edges kind of get a little bit of like a gray tone effect. Same thing here. Outside. And it doesn't have to be like super perfect edge highlights. I'm gonna go in, add a little bit more white. I pick out a couple of these spots like X. Variety and I don't want this to look like it's, but just by adding that little bit, it enhances the effect just enough. Then I'm going to use the same gray mixture back of this axe here. That. This is like what I like to call assisted edge highlighting, where you've got a surface that really lends itself well to the side of your brush. It does the not having to go in and manually highlight. Go in and scratch it. Chips. Dads. Focus now, like at that bright orange on the palette. Little bit of this gray. X here. Little bit of visual. Don't have the cool effect. Then brush for metallics. So metallics, highly recommend if you've never checked them out. Vallejo Model Air, meant to be used in an airbrush, but they're like super thin, really easy to work. Come out super smooth. You don't have to go back and add a bunch of layers. You don't have to try and thin them out and then add 50. Really nice paints. I add a little bit of black. I don't want them. And it looks like you are a fan. I cannot recommend them. Not sure. Yeah, the gold's not great. Any of their like metallic colors aren't any of the like steel variations. For gold, I really like scale 75. Honestly, even like Citadel has some pretty solid gold colors. And a little bit of metallic makes them stand out enough. Really kind of enhances the overall. Here. Catch that bottom portion. Highlight. Have a little bit more. Ever try scale? Yeah, scale gold. I actually have one right here. It's like metal and alchemy line from them. I really like this. I'm not sold on like scale 75s, just normal acrylic range either. I know that they're like, you know, the artist's paints. I find that they're like really difficult to use. Like super thin, and it takes a lot of layers to build them up. I think like especially for someone who's like new to painting, they're very bad experience. Not that they're bad paints. I already spent enough time going super slow, so having to paint a layer 50 times is not my ideal scenario. Very excited for the new army painter paints. Yeah, I don't know that I'll buy them. Like I haven't had great experiences with the army painter paint. Like when I first got into the hobby, even before I was into Warhammer, I bought their like humongous bundle pack of whatever on Amazon. And like all of the paints, it could have been like I got a bad batch or it was like something that had been sitting around for a long time. But man, like I could not get those paints to work. They would always separate and I'd have to like thin them. They would dry out a lot. But I know some people love Army Painter, and that's nothing against Army Painter. Like I have an Army Painter 1 palette, love this stuff, love it. I have like 2 of them actually because I like them so much. But I have not had good luck with their paints. I don't know what the deal is. Alright, so comparing these two sides, I think the back half of it is just about on par with the front. I'm pretty happy with that. To go in, you can see like I've done a very subtle OSL on that gold skull center of the axe. I'm just gonna do the same thing backside. Needs to be shaded. I'm gonna hit it with a shade. Then we'll do some OSL. So I'm actually just gonna use black to make a wash to get down that eye socket. Right now, you see darken. Not. A little wash there. I'm actually gonna use some Liquitex shade this. I want it to look like a tarnished gold, like a worn gold. I'm gonna put a drop of this. Never used ink for shading. Super nice to work with. With this burnt umber color, got a nice brownish tone to it. So it'll kind of give a bit of a brown. Oh no, applying it. So I'm just working it into this like this here above the man. That works just like a nice. I kind of want it to look a little bit worn. I don't want it to look super new. And just that little bit. Same, but well, if you do you know, like, they're releasing soon, right? Like, I feel like I saw that they're like right around the verge of coming out. Well, if you do try them, you come back through when I'm streaming. Let me know how they are. Or if you want to shoot me a message on it. Be interested to hear how they treat you. I'm always happy to try new paint. Is there some, like, big selling point on them? Or have they just, like, redone their formula? Alright. Got the little bit of shading done here. I'm going to take some of this Fluro orange, which is nice because it's basically like a dry opaque. Oh, nice. And I'm just going to pick out some raised air. Of course, that's what I just shaded. Might be a little bit too thick. Give me 1 second. Grab an orange. It's a bit more solid. I think I have a orange Fluro from Vallejo. Same behavior over all colors. Ah, okay, that does sound nice. Okay, we'll have to give them. I'm just gonna use these two: Vallejo Amaranth Red, Vallejo Orange Fluorescent. Very opaque. Oh. Yeah, I mean, I got what you mean. All my paints are dried. Clear this out. Of course, it exploded up. Where I am here. Oh man. I appreciate you staying up that late or that early. I would not be able to do it. Alright, I'm gonna get just a little glob of orange. Don't need much. Working on a very small area. Again, I'm just trying to replicate this side. That skull just has that very tiny little bit of orange. I kind of put that like little ember there, so it looks like it's off of the front of the skull. Let's take a little bit of yellow. A glaze can sticking out. Frontal area. And a little bit of orange there. Make it look like that light is pitching. Bouncing. Very subtle, nothing crazy. It helps to enhance is the word that I'm looking for. Same thing on this metallic right here. I'm just gonna take a little bit of that orange, glaze it onto the front to imply that some of that heat showing up. Paint. Build up. Passes on. Bone. Back up. Fifth or highlight top that axe because I think do these couple little edge highlights. I'm probably gonna call it a night. I now not stay up late. So 11 p.m. for me. 4 a.m. is crazy. 11 p.m. for me, pushing it. So hit this little spot with an edge highlight. Side of my brush. 3 p.m. here. Where are you located? JD. Woke up, couldn't go back to sleep. Oh, again, man, I appreciate stopping by. 4 a.m. That I can provide some type of payment to pass the time. Australia. I just wanted to go to Australia. Though I do not envy what you guys have to pay for Warhammer. Absolutely criminal. Little bit. That's one thing that's nice about working with black as a base for anything that you're painting, like edge highlights. If you mess up, super easy to fix. Back over. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that effect. On this side, I gotta add the highlight to that and finish that cable. Thinking that's pretty good. Australia's birthplace is brutal. Oh. Well, thanks so much for stopping by. I am probably going to call it here because I'm getting a little bit sleepy. I'll probably boot this back up tomorrow Probably work on the same mini, honestly. I might work on some Age of Sigmar stuff. Like, I got this Usul Ogre guy started. Just got like a base coat down on his coat. Started on his head. I don't know, I might work on that tomorrow. I know a lot of people want to see like how to paint faces. I love painting faces. Might do that. Just keep your eyes peeled. I'll post about it on Instagram though if I do go live. But again, thanks so much for everybody who stopped by. Appreciate chatting, helping me occupy the time. And have a good night, have a good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you're at. Take it easy.